What about the Kushi, the Fey dogs? You loved those big green bastards. Aye, that I did, he agreed, rubbing his chin. But they're still demons. Nice demons, mind. Those little bellflowers stay fresh on the altar for almost 3 weeks, he scowled. Still, demons, like Satan's sprite, that little creature you carry around in your underthings. I huffed out a breath. Pepe was still refusing to go back into the portal. Most of the time, he was snuggled in my bra or hanging out in my van, passionately licking his new girlfriend, a taser. I was worried about him, but he showed no interest in going back home just yet. He was a real cutie pie, with his big blinky eyes and bright green sparkling skin. I hadn't had a pet in thousands of years, and despite not wanting one, he seemed to have adopted me, rather than the other way around. It was easy to forget that he had the power to burn the whole town to ashes in the blink of an eye. Leroy had been researching salamanders, trying to help, and all he'd found out is that they are insanely dangerous and best avoided at all costs. Still, it didn't stop me from carrying him around in my bra and bottle-feeding him hot sauce like he was a little baby. I glared at Benson. Why don't you try praying over Pepe? See if you can get him to go back home. I may get a few wires crossed when it comes to this demon business, Imogen, he grumbled, but I know for a fact that if I go anywhere near that little bugger, he'll likely roast me nuts off. I laughed in spite of myself. It hurt my throat, so I stopped quickly. Wringing out my hair, I looked out over the lake and sighed. How am I going to catch this damned naiad? Don't know, Benson shrugged. All I know is that you damn well better. We can't have a water demon sullying our beautiful lake. There was no point telling him that naiads weren't demons. I knelt down, catching my breath for a moment, and mentally rifled through what I knew about them. Naiads were water fairies, which made them fey. Fairy was made up of an infinite amount of dimensions, just like Earth was, some of which overlapped with our dimension. Elemental fey, like dryads and naiads, used to appear on Earth quite often, hiding in springs and fountains, watching humanity from a distance, sometimes teasing and playing tricks, other times committing outright murder for giggles. But as time went on, humans changed. Rather than run away in terror at the sight of an elemental fey, we were more likely to pick up a camera and grab the rest of our friends to come take a look. As the natural waterways were polluted and forests cut down, elemental fey retreated back into their own dimension and deliberately strengthened the walls between realms so they couldn't be pursued. Apart from a few whispers from witches who wisely avoided them, and children's wild stories, none had been seen on Earth for several generations. Like all fey, naiads were selfish, capricious, and troublesome. They were mostly corporeal, but could squeeze their way into any body of water through pipes and spouts. This naiad had clearly fallen through the dip by accident. She'd fallen out of the sky, hit the lawn, and flopped on the ground like a dying fish until she got to the first source of water she could find. The tiny lion's head water fountain at the edge of the town square, and disappeared up the pipe. She might have gotten away with it, too, except the whole thing had been witnessed by a group of burly workmen reinstalling the statue of Sir Humphrey. The workmen were understandably frightened out of their wits. 2 of them got their cell phones out and made appointments with their respective therapists. One of them resolved to stop smoking so much pot, and the last one crossed himself and called Father Benson. And, of course, Father Benson called me. When I got to the town square, I examined the fountain. It was a little thing, a stone structure with a lion's head carved in the side, a tiny waterspout coming out of its mouth and dribbling into a clamshell-shaped bowl, no bigger than a bird's bath. The fountain was empty. There was no water fey milling around at the bottom of the tiny bowl. A quick inspection and a phone call to Leroy later, and he'd hacked into the town plans for me. He discovered the water from the fountain came directly from the lake, feeding backwards and forwards by a tiny pipe. The naiad had obviously made her way through the water fountain pipes into the lake. The lake was a picturesque little body of water at the bottom of Emerald Valley, a popular fishing spot ringed by a walking track.